Welcome to the Concert Queen Connect. I'm smiling really hard because I'm so excited for our next guest. She is so special. She's a producer, singer, songwriter, DJ. There's so many things that she's done and accomplished already in just a short amount of time, and places that she's already about to go. I'd like to introduce you to the one and only P1nkstar. Say hello.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah.
And you're also joined by Y2K.
Yeah.
Is this your entourage?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
Or you all like mutual entourage, like you both hype each other up?
Yeah, we like help each other out so much, like on everything we do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you're both here, so thank you. So I want to just introduce yourself to the people who may be not familiar with you, and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Cool. Well, I am P1nkstar. I'm a pop musician, DJ, producer, nightlife personality, and like also nightlife producer. I think that's probably what most people know me for. Just kind of like curating events and parties centering trans and queer talent here in Texas. And on top of that, I have my own art practice and like music career and like do work with nonprofits and just a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're really just ingrained in the community, but we want to take it back because you came here like right to the University of Texas at Austin from Mexico.
Yeah.
So what was that like growing up in Mexico and that whole?
Ooh.
Yeah. No, because I'm Mexican as well. So
Yeah.
I come from like a very strict, my parents have watched this, very strict Catholic upbringing. So, I mean, I was kind of a rebel kind of growing up. So I can only imagine, like, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely like the troubled child, kind of. I was also a really good student like my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I could get away with things because I was doing really good in
Same.
school.
Same. Exact same.
And then, but I mean, I did grow up in Tampico, which is a medium-sized city, probably like around the size of Austin. Maybe not as big, a little smaller, especially like with Austin just blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely not as developed. Very like small town mentality. Very conservative, kind of Mexican Catholic values. I grew up going to church every Sunday. So it was definitely a struggle, I think, as a teenager, just kind of being in that environment. So like for many years, even before I actually moved out, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go. And yeah, I mean, people are very, or at least in my experience, people were very homophobic. Like I feel like transphobia was not even like acknowledged because it was just kind of like so far from what people knew that they didn't even know they hated it. So it was interesting. I mean, I didn't like really like come out as trans until I was living here, so I didn't get to experience that. I haven't really gone back since.
Really?
Yeah, so it's just kind of like and I think like I was like gay, but like it was something that was like unspoken. It was kind of like everyone knew, and I knew that everyone knew, and we just kind of like pretend that we didn't see.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that feel? I mean, 'cause like you said, that's something that, I mean, I'm not even going to pretend to, like, I don't know, you know, like what that was like. So, I mean, I grew up obviously like with my traditional Catholic upbringing, but I feel like when you add all those other elements to it, like that's something that only, you know, someone of, like I said, that is trans that can really identify with. And not only that, but like a person of color. So it's like you're coming from this like very marginalized group that exists. And that's something that, you know, I just know a lot of people maybe, like you said, didn't understand and don't understand. Like what would you tell them, or what would you have told them back then? Like if you could now, knowing what you know,
like to the people that like I was around, or people that were in that are in my position?
Yeah. Like if you had gone back and like you said,
Ooh, I don't even know. I feel like I mean, honestly, like a lot of the times whenever I think of people who are still like, I see like several like high school friends or acquaintances that like still follow my social media and are keeping up with what I do, and I'm like, well, this must feel like I feel like for a while people were like worried about me, or just like we're like what the hell is going on with this person? Like, did they just lose it? And whenever I started like making music and kind of like developing this project, and now I'm like, well, I've done things, I'm doing things, and like people have acknowledged that I'm doing things. And so I think people come around when they see you kind of doing like what you set out to do. And yeah, I think even like my family and stuff, they were like really concerned for a while, and then they were like, oh, actually, like in Austin, like people are responding to what you're doing, and it's like important to people, and like they've seen, like we've had like encounters with fans with my family and stuff like that, and it's
cool.
I'm like, this is so nice that this is happening when y'all are visiting, cause like you get to see this. And like you now know that people actually like care about what I'm doing, and I'm not just like wild artist like pretending to do all these things. Like I'm actually doing things.
Well, I feel like you're a trailblazer, and so when you're a trailblazer, there's just the, you know, when no one's done it, there is no playbook to how to do it. And I feel like you have like just reading about like the history, and like I want to talk about, you know, like even at UT and being there, and at that age too, when those are like your most formative years, and you're trying to not only like you have all these different elements. I just want to give you a lot of props on that, because
thank you.
People have no idea. And I just, like I said, that's just so amazing to me, because just when you're trying to find out who you are and kind of learn that, like you have all these other things that you're trying to figure out while going to school. You know, you left Mexico, you're at the University of Texas now at Austin. So take us through that kind of journey. Is that too much? Or
No, I mean, it just happened. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
did you kind of already know like this, like it sounds like you knew where you wanted to go.
Well, yeah, like I moved to the US specifically to study art. And I was like, I'm not just studying art. Like I knew like what I was getting into, you know. I was like, it's not an easy path, and if you're trying to actually make art like what you do in life, you have to really go in and like
just commit.
Put it, really commit. And so for a while I was like, oh, I don't know, like if Texas is gonna be great, like maybe I should move somewhere else. And I like had the opportunity to I got accepted into a lot of art schools everywhere in the country, everywhere I wanted to go. Everything was so expensive.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, okay, well, the University of Texas has this treaty with like Mexico, and so I can go there, and I can afford to be there. So I ended up here, and I'm so happy, like so happy. I definitely think this is where I needed to be. But for sure, it was definitely interesting, my experience at UT. Just like, I really wanted to be an artist. I was around many people in like art schools, just go to art school because they're very talented, but they don't really want to become an artist. So it's just
interesting.
It's like everyone who really wants to make art their life kind of like just joins. At least this is what happened in my experience. So I had like a really cool group of friends at school, and we were all like trying to figure out like who we were, what we wanted to do, what we even liked making. And then at UT, I also found a lot of like cultural studies classes. And I think those like really, really kind of changed my perspective in art, because I feel like in fine arts, at least, people are very like highbrow, and just there's a certain language of fine arts that people want you to speak to be successful in that world. And like through cultural studies, and specifically kind of queer studies and performance studies, and like essays that would like put a raunchy drag queen next to like the most famous performance artist, and like compared them and kind of like proved that like their work was the same, I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. Because it also, especially I think with music, with live performance, you can reach people like that you wouldn't if you're trying to speak the language of art. And so it's way more immediate. And that's really kind of like how I ended up making music, just kind of like through this super conceptual like background, I guess. But I mean, it was definitely interesting. I in the art school, there was really no like Latinx representation at all. And many times I was trying to make work in Spanish. Like, I came from Mexico, that this is the culture that I understand, the culture that I'm responding to, but like no one would understand the work. They would understand that it was good work, but they would not understand the context or the background or anything behind. So to me, that was kind of frustrating. And with cultural studies, I kind of found like people that could speak on queerness or could speak on like Latinidad or just different things that I related to. And so I really kind of grasped onto those classes as I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my art. And it was cool. And then at the same time, I found Nightlife when I was in at UT. And so I was like doing all these things academically, but then also like partying like 4 nights of the week, just like going everywhere, having a lot of fun, but just really kind of embracing the queer culture and the queer scene, the underground queer scene that Austin had a couple of years ago. And that was really beautiful.
Yeah. So how did you find that? Like, how did you find, you know, your group to hang out with in that sense versus like, you know, because most people, if like you said, they're just going to school. Like, how were you kind of just seeking that out, or did it kind of find you?
Yeah, I think through like wanting to be an actual artist, I got this opportunity with this arts group here in Austin called Collab Projects, and they had this program where they would foster, or not foster, but kind of like put young artists under their wing and kind of show them what it is to be a professional artist. And at the end of that, they would do a group show with all the artists, and they pushed me to do my first live performance as P1nkstar and gave me this window display on Congress Avenue. So it was like, it's almost like right in front of the Contemporary. And so it was like really weird. Like, I had this huge display of like this giant pink star with my face on it, and people were really confused. People would go into the gallery and they're like, is this a store? Like, they were just confused. And so it was funny because I did that first show and it was at their basement downtown. So it was like a really cool underground type of space. And then I had that thing at the same time. And then at the same time, Emily Lau, who works with Collab Projects, who also was kind of like a nightlife personality in town, like years back. She was like, hey, there's this party happening and you're gonna perform in it. I'm already like contacting the producer. It's gonna happen. And she like really pushed me to like do this. And I was like, okay, I guess. And I made it there in full kind of like P1nkstar attire.
What described P1nkstar attire?
Well, at the time it was very different. I was just like covered in glitter, wearing this tiny little fuzzy pink vest that's made for little girls. It's my Melody. So it's kind of like Hello Kitty's friend vest. And just, I mean, very kind of femme, but also like genderqueer and also like really cutesy. That was kind of like what I was doing at the time. And I got there in this like full costume, I guess. And everyone who I had ever matched on Tinder with was at this party in the audience. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. I'm about to like make a fool of myself. But that party was, the organizer was Mouthfeel, Jeremy Bonstelb, who's a big queer nightlife producer here in town.
Oh, wow.
And like he really liked what I was doing, and from there kind of like included me in more shows. And then from there I also met like House of Kenzo and a lot of people that were like doing underground queer rave nightlife. And so I kind of became friends with them as well. And we kind of just, from there, like I started doing shows with Jeremy and also like going to all these raves and like figuring stuff out. And like, honestly, like I feel like the underground queer scene in Austin was like super amazing for me. I just learned so much about electronic music, about like rave culture, about like even like queer nightlife and just like gender and like how, I don't know, it's like almost like gender as performance, but also as performance in real life. So I don't know, it was like, it's that entire time of my life, just being a student, living my double life as like a rave girl. I don't know, I learned so much, and I feel like that's still kind of like what I'm pulling from many times.
Well, that's a safe space too, and that's like, those are your roots. Probably like laid the foundation for like what you're doing now. But like, where did you get your kind of like your pop influences from?
Ooh. I mean, everywhere.
I know it's a loaded question.
Yes.
I know it's a loaded question.
I mean, I love pop music. I think I got really enamored with pop music in my teens, and I was really interested in American pop music, which at the time, I mean, everything from like old, like Born This Way, Lady Gaga, even Lana Del Rey was like super poppin', Nicki Minaj, just kind of like that entire era of pop music I was super obsessed with. I was like a stan on Twitter. I like did all like the things. I was like, I mean, yeah, even like before being a musician, I was a music fan. Like I was a hardcore music fan. Like let me get on like the first row, like going to like music festivals and like really trying, like diving through the audience, trying to like get a better spot. But yeah, I mean, so I think from there, and then like I kind of, while I was developing Pinkstar and just like even like through the years, I've just really love camp. I really love Rafaela Carrà, who's like RIP, passed a couple of days ago.
Oh, wow.
She was this Italian singer that sang a lot in Spanish too, but she's just queen of camp. Like she's amazing. All of her songs are super sexual, but like in a playful way. And she's got the moves, she's got the gay dancers, and this is like in the 80s. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, seeing stuff like that. And then also like even right before I moved to Austin, I discovered this nightlife / pop scene that had happened in Mexico City a couple of years like prior to me moving here with Maria Daniela y su sonido láser and C'est Moi and even Silvertronic. It was just kind of like this queer nightlife people that were making electro pop, techno pop music. And to this day, I'm like, I literally was blasting Maria Daniela like 2 days ago. I was blasting C'est Moi yesterday all day. And it's, I think for me, like kind of discovering this queer pop scene that happened in Mexico, which to me has always been like super conservative. That was like really eye-opening. And then obviously like PC music, Sophie, even like that project that Sophie did with Hayden Dunham, who's actually from Austin. They did Cutie, which was like a performance art project / music project that got like super pushed by PC music. And like Hayden is not even a pop star, like wanting to make pop music, but she toured the world with Sophie and Charlie XCX just because like she was so popular. And like yeah.
So wow.
So
that's amazing.
A lot of pop references.
Yeah.
I also just love techno I don't. It's like funny because like never listened to techno on my own, but every time I go to a rave that's playing techno music exclusively, I'm like, this is the best rave I've been to.
It's amazing because you have all these influences. Like I was reading, and there were some that I hadn't even heard before. I was like, I had to look them up, and you can probably tell me, like even with, like I said, I'm not familiar, but I'm fascinated with it. With Kawaiiton, am I saying it wrong? Kawaiiton. Kawaiiton. Is that like?
I mean,
and Club Denbow. Those were like two genres, and so that your music was described as, with rap, feminista, techno, house, and Latin pop. So those I can figure out. But
I mean, Kawaiiton is just kind of like, I think it was at the same time that like or like post PC music maybe. It's just like really cute internet. When internet music was super cute.
Oh, okay.
It's like the reggaeton version of
Got it. Okay.
What else? Club Denbow. I don't even know if Club Denbow is like an actual genre. I use it. I know that other people use it, but I don't know if it's like official. But to me, that's just kind of underground, like, producers that are making these like really interesting experimental remixes of like dembow reggaeton music, and just kind of like playing with like different ways of making that, since like now it's kind of gotten to the mainstream. Just kind of like, how do you bring that type of music into the club? And like all these like producers in Latin America are doing that type of music, and they're like playing raves and like kind of like cool parties. It's not like a Latin night necessarily, because that's one way of bringing that music to the club. But also like what's like the darker, more like electronic way of doing that, and that's kind of like what Club Denbow is to me.
That's a great explanation, because I was looking it up. I was like, I can't find this.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't
not.
Know if it's
you
real.
Can't find that anywhere. Like on, like I googled it, I Google searched it, but I was listening to like SoundCloud subbix. Was like, and then I heard it, but like because your music is so diverse, you know, and it's very unique. And like, how would you say your sound has changed, even from like your first song to like your album #1 hits, which is amazing. We'll have links to everything so people can hear it. But yeah, so you have like just again all these different influences.
I've always been interested in making electronic pop music. I am so grateful that I found people that I can work with that are so talented in production, because I can do production somewhat. And like I can make a song and it'll be okay. Like I'll perform it live, but like I wouldn't trust myself to like finish that song for a release.
But you found people in the community.
No,
like in the queer, which I think is very unique as well, because it wasn't like you just ran and like, you know, just got some random producer. Like
it's like everyone that I work with, we're like pretty close friends. Maybe we don't see each other like that often, but we like keep in touch. And it's all people that have reacted to my work, to what I'm doing, and they're like, hey, if you ever want to make music and like I'm here, I'll help you. And all of these artists, I mean, it's Ben Aqua. Who I'm talking about right now is Ben Aqua, Mr. Kitty and Boy Sim. They're just like renowned producer type people, like and they're just so talented. But I think the vision has always been there. I just like, I want to make electronic pop music. Now I'm kind of like really want to get a little bit more experimental. I want to like make techno music that is also pop, but I'm trying to figure it out still. It's like that's kind of what I've been working on recently. But yeah, I think this, to me, like electronic pop music is so great because it's so synthetic, but it can be really real, but it can also just be super fake. And at the same time, you know, it's like all created like on a computer. Maybe there are some like real electronic instruments, but it's like nothing is tangible. It can't be played properly with like physical instruments, and like my vocals always have to be like super processed. But I don't know, it's just like that's what I really always wanted to. And that kind of also, like, I guess referencing like that PC music, that like internet culture music that's just kind of like super amped up, super synthetic. And then like, I don't know, there's like something about like technology interacting with music, interacting with the body, interacting with performance that has always like been what I wanted to do.
Right. So that's what I wanted to literally transition into that, because I feel like you have this whole live performance as well, this whole different element that a lot of people don't have. You know, there's some people that we had some artists on here that, you know, same kind of thing. Like they produce all their music on the computer and they learned during quarantine how to play their music on actual instruments, which was wild. So I think it's very interesting. But like with you, and like you said, your music, that's just one piece. Like some people, it's just about the music, but with you, it's like, oh, I've got a live performance as well.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And that's like a whole
and
thing.
Every time I'm making music, every time I'm in the studio, I'm like, how is this gonna look on stage?
Are you?
Yeah, that's always like, even like I'm like trying to figure out choreos that I would like to do when I'm like writing music and where I'm like recording. I'm like, how is this gonna be on stage? So I think for me, live performance is really important, and just visual. Like I've always been a visual artist, and I like do most of my visuals. It's hard for me even to collaborate with photographers sometimes, because I'm like, I need to do the post-production.
Oh, really?
I need to like approve. I need to like be involved in all parts of like what this music and this project is going to look like. And so I think that's like something, I don't know. I feel like a lot of artists that I really look up to and like really like what they're doing is like they have a whole kind of world that surrounds them. And to me, I'm like, this project and this music is that to me. It's like, it's not just about the music. Like, it's cool when people get up on stage and it's like really good music, but to me, it's like, this is like an offering. This is a proposal of like, I don't know, like maybe the future, maybe like some other ways of like existing. I don't know, but that's kind of like what I think of it. It's kind of like, this is a proposal. This is about futurity. This is about like something that is not in this world yet.
Yeah, you really are. Like, you're creating your own everything, like you said, because it's not, I've never heard, you know, I've listened to obviously pop music like you, maybe definitely not on the scale that you have. I kind of have my hands like in everything. Yeah. You know, listen to everything, but like hearing your music and like I said, and then seeing like your visual performance, because you did something during quarantine, right? You did this whole performance. Can you tell people about that?
Yeah. So during quarantine, we did Girls Like Us, which is an hour-long, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like an hour-long special featuring trans artists from everywhere in Texas. It's kind of an ongoing, it's like, it starts and it's like a full show with different sets. There's transitions in between. It goes to different artists. It goes to dance numbers. And just really trying to like showcase the community that we have in Texas, and also just like that there is pop in Texas. Like, especially in Austin, it's so hard. Like, people think of Austin and they're like, oh, well, there's like indie rock. And I'm like, there's so much more. You just have to like look for it.
Yeah. So where would you go to find more pop? Because I see like Cheer Up Charlie's a lot, you know, and Coconut Club, obviously. But where else would you like recommend people to look for that?
I mean, definitely Cheer Up Charlie's, definitely Coconut Club. I would say even Elysium. I think there's like, what's cool about the pop music that's being created in Texas is it's not standard. It's kind of, everyone has their own proposal of what pop music can be. And I think in Girls Like Us, that's kind of like what I was also trying to show with the curation. Like, there's like Lorelai Hay, who's like alt wave pop music, insane vocals.
Yeah.
Quentin Arispe, who's like full package, like choreo, amazing vocals. We have Y2K. Yeah, it's just, I feel like everyone that's featured, and yeah, everyone that's featured there. Also Belladonna, who's like amazing. I don't know if you know Belladonna, but just insanely talented. Yeah, I've always been in awe. Every time I've seen her perform, I'm like, you are the future, girl. You got everything. Just go for it.
Yeah. So do you feel like moving forward, do you really feel like you have to carry the torch for everyone? And I know you've been even coined as like this leader, essentially, but do you feel, I don't know, because I feel like that could be sometimes like a heavy weight, like a cross to bear sometimes,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think, it's funny, I don't think of myself as like the leader of the community necessarily. Like, I think I'm a prominent voice for sure, and definitely like really trying to foster the community and like make spaces where everyone can shine. But at the same time, I'm like, sometimes people see me and they're like, you literally created an entire scene around you. And I'm like, no, like all these people were here. I like just put them in the same event. And like with curation, especially like Y2K and I, a lot of what we do is like we see people living in like different little like artistic worlds, and we're like, what if we just put all of you in the same show? Like, what would that look like? And like who would that bring into the room? And like, what if this like all these different like art world and drag scene and like underground music world, like what if they all met and like became friends? So I think like that's something that we think about actively every time we're like putting on an event. And yeah, at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I am a prominent voice, but I think the community is strong and has been here like way before I was here. And there's been people fostering the community since like, I don't know, ever. And so I don't feel like I need to carry the torch, but I do feel really grateful of the community here in Austin. Like everything that I do, I'm like, this would not be possible. Like I would not be able to do this. I would not be who I am if it wasn't for the support that I've received here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel like the communities here differ than the other places in Texas?
I think so. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like everyone who's queer or an artist in Texas really, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people just like gravitate here. And so we definitely have a lot of more creative people than other cities. And like, I feel like the spirit of the city in general is kind of like we're all artists or like creatives of some sort. And like we enjoy music, we enjoy partying, we like drinking. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think Austin has a very specific identity that like a lot of us identify with. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. I'm just in awe of you because I just feel like you said, I personally said I haven't seen someone like you that, and and I go out and I do these different things, but it's never, really kind of seeing that community and that culture and everybody kind of band together, because you never know, like I said, that's not something that I personally, can identify with. So it's really cool to know that, and that people that are coming here, seeing this and maybe don't live here, they're walking into a very welcome place and welcome space.
Yeah, definitely. I feel for me, it's all about the just community. Even like quarantine was so hard for me for like 6 months, because I was like, I thrive. Like the only reason I like survive in life, or not survive, but just like the only reason I'm always so inspired is because I get to see so many beautiful people all the time, like multiple times a week. And just like everyone's living their best life. Everyone's creating the art that they want to make, or like working towards creating the art that they want to make. And it's just so inspiring to me. And that's really kind of like, that's why I'm so indebted to the city. I'm like, y'all really just like, I could not, like, I had like a big artist block. I was like, I'm not gonna do anything for the next year until like the idea for Girls Like Us happened. I was like, I did not do anything from like March 6th, which was the release.
Oh, you remember the exact day?
Like well, it was
right, because South by.
Yeah,
right.
It was the release party of my EP. Was the last time I went out, and like the last time I saw everyone. And that day, South by got canceled, and then like 2 days later, everything else got canceled because people were like, yeah, we're still gonna do our events, like we don't know what this is, there are no cases in Austin.
Yeah.
And like everything just got canceled like the week following my EP release party. And so like I remember the exact day. I'm like, yeah, that for like from that day till like, I don't know, like November, I was just like, I am here. And like it's cute. For a while I just like even stopped checking my Instagram and social media. I was just like, I don't really care. Like I don't know. Like I don't like seeing people having fun. I think it's irresponsible. But
well, everyone was all over the scale.
Yeah.
I feel like too. Like some people, especially being on social media, like you said, there were so many things going on during that time between like Black Lives Matter and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So it was like a very stressful time.
It was
to be on
after
media.
everything that happened that summer with Black Lives Matter. I was like, I cannot check my social media because every time I look at it, I re-traumatize myself, and like I don't know what to do about this. Like I like obviously like support the movement, but I also like I am really kind of like dealing with this other thing already, and like people are posting really wild videos online, and it's not like it's like too much for me. So I took a break from social media for a little bit. But I think also like I like the entire time, like I had like shows booked out for like months in advance, and when that last show like that date passed, and it was also like the biggest show that I had booked, and I was really excited about it. I was like, yeah, this is just sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I had a breakdown too during all that, because I think Steve, I literally was like sitting on the couch watching some like music festival and I started crying. Because I was like, I just missed this. Like, you didn't have to tell him multiple times, but yes, multiple times I sat on my couch and I cried because it was just very, like you said, it was like the thing that everybody loved was like stripped away, you know, with performing. And, you know, for me, I like love going to shows and love seeing music and people in their creative space. So I feel like out of that though, too, I mean, you birthed obviously that, you know, the hour-long video that you did. Like we started this podcast, so it was like a really cool, you know, it's a different, everybody, the pivot word, you know, everybody took a pivot. So
we all had to pivot. And then I think, a lot of good things also came from the pandemic. Just in general, I also like now post-pandemic, I'm like, the hormones really hit and I look really different now and I really love it.
Really? Yeah. So can you talk about that process a little bit?
I mean, what part? I'm like, it's long. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's been interesting. I feel like I went into the pandemic looking a specific kind of way, being kind of like still very genderqueer, being kind of like against, I don't know, maybe not against, but I was just like, this is the image that I have created that I will keep. And then I think having all that free time and all that space, it was kind of like, okay, but like, what do you want? Like beyond your art? Because I'm super committed to like my art and my projects and just kind of like, I'll do anything. Like, I don't care. But I was like, okay, but what do you want? Like, how do you want to like live your life? How do you want to look and like just beyond the stage? And so it just kind of like that entire process happened. But I mean, I was already kind of on HRT taking estrogen. I've been for like 2.5 years. And I think that's kind of like normal timelines for like what people see. Like year or two, it's kind of like, oh, the body changes. But I mean, it's like you're going through puberty again, so it's just kind of like you never know. No one really knows what changes you're gonna see and what changes you're not. But
especially like you said, having that vision of like this is what you want to look like, right, in your head, and then like you said, having that kind of match now, or do you feel like there's still more?
No, yeah, I mean, for sure, closer.
I mean, we all have. Everyone has, you know, an ideal vision of what they want to look like.
But I think I was just kind of like, I also like had all the time to just like be like, okay, learn. I don't know. I mean, I've been doing my own makeup for so long, but also like kind of just like what changes do you want to make? I don't know. It's complicated and like an emotional process, of course, but I mean, I think it like have allowed, like I feel like a lot of my creativity in quarantine and the pandemic was just like really honing into beauty, and like I learned how to do my own nails. I didn't.
Did you? I was about to say.
No, I didn't do these. I kind of have stopped because it takes me forever. I'm a perfectionist. So everything that's creative and like attention, like where you need a lot of attention, I'm like, okay, this is gonna take me like 7 hours, but it's fine. They're gonna look
like,
great.
I have the time to do it. Well, everyone was stripped away. I mean, everything stripped away. Like, I mean, like lashes and nails. And it was like a time where everyone just hit that. I mean, even the Kardashians, you know, everybody got reset. So it was like a time, like you said, I think I had to like learn how to love myself again, and like beauty as well. Like, it's not just, okay, I can be okay without having lashes,
a full face of makeup,
a full face of makeup,
nails and lashes.
Yeah, because that's all part of the fun. Like you said, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But to have that appreciation of it, and like you said, to discover that on your own, and like literally starting from like, because we all had like, it's like we went back to like our base, like our foundation of like, hey, this is it. Now I get to start over.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how would you describe your style now, and how that's kind of changed from the beginning as well? I know you have your stylist right here.
Yeah, I'm like, you give me work. Well, we were talking about this earlier, and we were like, yeah, I feel like I'm really like, especially with like number one hits, and like after that, just really thinking of the future, and like kind of even like the future of fashion or whatever that means. But really pointing, I feel like I've always thought of futurity. I've always thought of like my work as a proposal of what could be. And I think with number one hits, because of the sound, it allowed me to also be like, okay, well, now the visuals can match those thoughts and like those words that people have used with my work. And like, what if I just like really lean into like pointing towards the future, and like pointing towards like futurism in fashion too. And I think more recently it's like kind of shifting a little bit again, and it's becoming a little more like aggressive or like warrior-esque, like Barbarella type. Like I think like we pull inspiration from like all of these things. I've been wearing
like the queer underground scene is like where we get a lot of like inspiration.
Yeah, the queer underground scene. And also like that's like the really cool thing about like queer nightlife is that everyone, like, maybe this is like, it's like maybe you're not even wearing clothes, but you're serving a concept, and like just being able to have like that community and like that language where like everyone's proposing different things and like pulling from each other and like taking what someone did and like changing it to their own style. I think that's like really powerful and like really I don't know, something that I really appreciate. Inspiring. Yeah. And you can see it on like the way I dress as well, and especially with like stage costuming and just like attires, like club looks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with number one hits, because that came out during 2020, right? So then now that everything's back, everything's open, are you doing like a bunch of live performances now? Like what's kind of coming up for you?
I mean, I haven't, but I'm going to. So I'm working on my comeback show. That's going to be August 6th at an undisclosed location venue. Only people that get tickets are going to get the information. It's a really cool venue that I've been going to several events to, but they're very kind of like secretive about where they are. So it's I like that. And then actually like this week, I mean, this will probably like release after, but this weekend I'm performing at Coconut Club for a Netflix party. It's like a mini set, like 10 minutes long, but it's I mean, I'm excited. That's actually the first little like introduction to live performance that I'm doing. But yeah, I'm in the last couple of weeks and like months like of like going back to DJing, going back to nightlife. I'm like, okay, whenever you do actually have a live show, it's gonna be like a big deal. Like especially after Girls Like Us, but also just like I want it to feel really special. I don't want it to be like another booking. Like I want it to be like something that I'm like, okay, I wanna really work in this, put like this really nice event together for people to come to and like really share my art and like offer this to the community, you know?
I love that because I feel like there is too, and it's different than like, you know, because there's those DJs that are trying to get booked like every single weekend or every single night of the week, you know? So like you said, when it is something that's more curated, more special, then there's more value to it. So everybody wants to go to it. Yeah. Especially right now when, you know, I feel like we just hit the ground running, like everything between performances, it's going so fast that I can really keep up with it. But just seeing everything. But I saw that like the Sunday, it's very interesting. It's like a Netflix Fear Street. I got like a press release for it and I was like, P1nkstar's on there. Her name's on there. And I saw, but it's interesting because it's called Queer Street. Yeah. Which I was like, okay, I'm trying to see the connection because I grew up on like R.L. Stine, Fear Street books. Like I used to read I was a huge book nerd, Babysitter's Club, Fear Street, like all that stuff. Probably dating myself now. But yeah, I used to read all that. And so it was like Fear Street, but then it's like Queer Street and then having like a full on production. So I think it'll be cool. I'm still not sure, but just to see you, like you said, see performances again.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be really good. Everyone, who's on that bill is like Austin queer nightlife legends, so it's gonna be good, right? I don't know very much about Fear Street. I also don't know the connection between Fear Street and Queer Street, right? But I'm excited about it. It seems like it's gonna be a really good night or like evening event overall. Yeah. So
that's amazing. So you have that coming up. And then what about music? Are you like still making music or are you kind of just...
Yeah, I mean, I am working on stuff. I am not sure when it's going to come out. I have a lot of ideas and I've been working on those ideas and like trying to figure out what like the next move is, what the next era is going to look like. And also... I mean, I don't know. I've been saying this for a little bit. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but I'm like, what if I released my new music through a Mexican disc label? And like, that's something that I really have wanted for a while. Is like, I keep tabs with what's happening in Mexico. Really? And what's happening in Mexico City more specifically. And I'm like, this is all really cool and I want to be a part of this, but I am separated geographically. So I'm like, how can I make this connection? Yeah, so I'm excited to also explore that and like see if that is even like a thing that could happen. Yeah.
Wow. Well, because it is, and it's not that far.
It's not.
You know, I think if anything we learned kind of during quarantine, like you can still communicate, but like you said, being physically there is a totally different animal. So do you get a lot of your inspiration, you said, from like the underground scene here, but just visually, and kind of how do you kind of keep tabs to have this futuristic view? Because I feel like that's a lot of pressure. Like you're basically reinventing the scene in your own way by wanting to be like the 2-3 steps ahead of everyone, which I feel like you already are, so how do you?
I don't know. I think I wouldn't want to say that. I don't
being
know.
Unique in your own special way.
I mean, definitely like Instagram, and just I follow a lot of really cool people there, and I'm like, what's popping, what's really cool. It's funny to seeing, and also just browsing online, looking at like really kind of underground designers from all over the world. Etsy is an amazing resource for fashion.
Really?
Because there's just designers from like everywhere, like really random places in the world that I would never think of. And I'm like, oh, like there's like a big community of designers in Etsy that are making really cool futuristic like garments.
Mm-hmm.
And so Etsy's where I've been shopping the most, and it feels nice too, because it's like you see, like it's like a designer, it's like a person in their studio like making the clothes to order, or like maybe
not like Amazon. Yeah.
Oh yes,
Really?
Tumblr was so.
See, that's before.
Chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
interesting.
I asked that though for a couple reasons, because both of y'all have mentioned camp a couple times, and I studied a lot about camp in college, but I've never thought about it in terms of like queer fashion, right? And so I really see how that connects a lot, but also like name Y2K, right? The best, like when quarantine kind of started to hit the past year or two, I've seen, not in the mainstream so much, but I've seen a lot of like Y2K aesthetic start to come back, right?
Yeah.
And like you think back to like a lot of like Y2K artists, like I think like NSYNC or like Britney Spears, maybe even Avril Lavigne, like Dream. I was like those like artists, and I was just looking at your Instagram and I saw a lot of those like
references.
Style, and because I saw a lot of that on like Tumblr back in the day, right?
Yeah,
So that's interesting, and I mean Tumblr kind of is lame now, but
yeah, I mean I have not looked into Tumblr in years, but I definitely for a while that was like my main social media. I would just like browse really cool, beautiful pictures that people uploaded, and like fashion and art.
When y'all talk about like camp within like the queer like fashion community, like what is that like?
Yeah, versus like,
Yeah, it's a really interesting like thing to talk about.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because camp, like since being coined as a term, has been linked to kind of gay culture, and also like camp. I love this idea of like camp being the ultimate snob, which is kind of annoying because I maybe relate to camp in that way, but it's kind of like you have such good taste that you reject what's good, or quote unquote like good taste, and you like thoroughly enjoy what people think is bad taste or lowbrow. And so
it's not camp if you like see it that way though, right? Like that's the whole thing about camp. So
it's like you like have to thoroughly enjoy it. And so yeah, and it's also not camp if you're like trying to be camp.
Exactly.
So what were your thoughts with the whole like Met Gala, when the Met did a whole camp?
Yeah,
no, I was like,
Because they did this whole thing. Yeah.
I thought it was cute. I was like, I mean, a lot of people did not get the assignment, but I mean, I feel like Lady Gaga's lane. That's like the one thing I remember about that Met Gala. Was that also maybe like the Kim Kardashian with the raindrops? That was, I mean, I don't think that was camp, but that was a serve.
Yeah, if anybody's ever done camp the right way, it's Lady Gaga. But even like so like like I love Dua Lipa, right? But even I see it now, her with like some of her stuff, like starting to get like I think one of her last things was like future nostalgia. Like even in the title, it's like you're calling that
She's
out.
saying it, yeah.
So it's like it's very interesting to see that whole like trend and style. I guess trends repeat themselves, but.
Well, it's interesting too when it's so mainstream because now like it's like you have to almost spell it out for people to get it. Sometimes you can't be so indie or like you said, because people, even though it's an art, and I think like you said, the beauty of art too is that it's everyone has their own interpretation of it. But having something like that where it is so like it's with these giant pop stars, they, like you said, they can miss the assignment or they have to just spell it out for people. Like this is what it is.
Yeah. On point.
We'll leave it at that. So, I mean, is there what else? I know, like you said, we got upcoming shows, we got music. What else are you excited about that's coming up for you?
So we've started this new DJ project called Popsicle, and so I'm really excited about that one. Our motto is it's all pop all night, but we play really kind of obscure pop, experimental pop music, underground pop music. And so we've been doing a lot of DJ gigs around town, and that's been really fun, really exciting. I love the music that we're playing. I've been learning a lot about how to play like spin pop music, because like none of the BPMs are ever gonna match. Like it's just kind of a struggle overall to like mix them, or
it's
like
real
maybe
DJing.
not even mixing. Yeah, I mean when you're playing electronic music or music that's meant to be played at the club, it's like okay, things kind of like make sense. And with this, it's like this is a full song beginning to end, and there's no moments of like transition into the next song. So it's just it's been interesting and it's really fun, and I think people have really liked that project, and it's been fun. I do it with Y2K, so that's something I'm excited about too.
So you're all still working on that project, or do you have an upcoming show?
That's one of their Thades night.
Yeah, we're doing
Okay, I saw that on your page.
Yeah,
Thades night.
Thades night.
Love these names.
Yeah, it's for all the days and all the dams. But yeah, that's happening at Cheer Up Charlie's July 23rd. So that's our next show. I don't know if we have anything else coming up, but we've been consistently performing that DJ project. Oh yeah, we might have a residency soon, but I'm not gonna jinx it.
All right. Well, this will come out in 2 weeks. So yeah, next week. So hopefully you've got some things ironed out. Well, how can people find you and find your music and all the things
I mean,
P1nkstar?
I always say the best way to keep up with what I'm doing is Instagram, at P1nkstar _, and that's Pinkstar with the number 1 instead of an I, and then the underscore at the end. And that's my handle for all of my social media. I know I saw the document said Twitter is gold.
So yeah, so I have how my intern is obsessed with your Twitter. So she like went through it and she was like, oh my God, this is me. And she had like really specific tweets of yours that she was like, oh my God, her Twitter.
I saw that on like the list that you sent me of possible topics, and I was like, oh my God, she's reading my tweets.
She's great. Yeah, Sydney, shout out Sydney. You're amazing.
Twitter. I want more followers on Twitter, so also follow me there. But yes. Twitter is chaotic for me. Twitter.
Trying to get her into Twitter.
I know. I'm just. It's like a whole other thing.
It's a wild universe.
It's so
What
fun.
advice can you give me on Twitter?
Well,
Okay,
the thing is, like, I grew up as a teenager. I was obsessed with Twitter, because I was on Stan Twitter, and it was really, really fun. I would just like put everything there. And then whenever I moved here, I found community. I also like found community through Twitter. And now, I found community in person. So I like did not have Twitter, and I also like had a couple of friends that I feel like would always tell me that there was always drama on Twitter with like people that they knew in real life. And I was like, that sounds too stressful for me. And then during quarantine, I was like, okay, let me try Twitter again. And now I'm super obsessed with it. Like all of my thoughts are there.
Yeah, she has one. She says, me as fuck. Oh my God, these tweets. She said, OMG, please never flirt with me. I'm too cringe. That's what you said.
Yeah, that is true. I feel so cringe every time I think someone's flirting on me or flirting with me. And I like respond. I'm like, oh my God, are you like just never going to answer? Like, was that too embarrassing? But I mean, that's just like, I don't know. It's like the cool thing about Twitter is that a lot of people just put kind of like their human thoughts there. And even like artists. So I feel like Instagram for me is very like professional, very like, these are the things that I'm doing as an artist.
Got it.
And then Twitter is like, okay,
so you want the behind the scenes.
Here's the inside of my bimbo brain. Like I can't process thoughts correctly. So I'm just going to put them here.
Well, I'm just going to go on there and just retweet everything that she has. Right? That's the thing. See, I literally like... I don't know. Like, yeah, another one she has, wish I remembered what this was about, from June 28th, 21. I'm too pretty, too cunty, and too hot for all of this.
And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I like retweeted that today, actually. And I was like, I wish I remembered what this was about.
Yeah, that's what she said. She's like, oh my God, the most amazing tweet ever.
Okay, so it's kind of making a comeback because
I use it.
yeah, I'm very much here for that.
I use it if it's appropriate. I don't just like...
You're not gonna,
Yeah, it takes a very special person to earn that.
Lingo and like the community too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cunty is a word that trans people use for sure.
Do you have any other like terms that people...
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but I'm like trying to think of it. It's just like so embedded in my language that I'm like, oh, that's lingo. That's like specific to trans people. Oh, I forgot.
A lot of it's probably just normal pop culture now. I mean, maybe if you asked that question like 5 years ago, there would be a different answer. But I feel like a lot of it is just mainstream now, just like what we just talked about. You know?
Yeah, I feel like even Twitter is making change the way I speak in person because there's
Like you mentioned Stan, right? You were big on Stan.
Oh.
Like that, if you said what is like, you would never know what that is like 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I feel like consistently on Twitter, there's like meme phrases that people are using. Like a couple of weeks ago, everyone was obsessed with being petite and fertile, and
News to me.
and that was really fun for a little bit. And now people are obsessed with being submissive and breedable. And then it's like
Oh my God.
I think it is. I think it's the evolution of petite and fertile. But it's just so funny to me. And so like now I'm like always thinking of like, oh my God, I love being so fertile. It's so fun.
You learn something new every day. Thank you, Sydney, for those
tweets.
Yeah, because she was like, that's what she was. She was like, oh my God, these tweets.
I love
they're
that.
amazing. So
Thank you, Sydney.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was really, really fun. And I can't wait to see you perform. And if I can support you in any way, like, please, I'm happy to do so in any possible way.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you so much for having
thank you
me.
so
I'm so
much.
happy to be here.
Yay.
This was so fun.
So maybe we'll get a performance right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to get a performance now. So thank you guys so much. And like I said, we'll have all of her socials, everything that you can see. Make sure you're following her and supporting her. And we will see you next week.